So welcome back. In this lesson, we are actually going to test out our first list. We're going to actually implement it in our table view. Something to keep in mind is because this is such a long application, some of the codes that I will type now, I might remove them later. And that's just a very common practice. As you're doing your code, you do things and then later on you just modify them. Of course, I've done this application before. I could just give you the very final code, but I don't think that would actually, be very helpful, simply because we need to understand the process in which we go through. So the first thing I want to do is I want to go ahead to my lists view controller.h, and this is where we're going to begin, adding stuff for our actual list view controller. And the first thing I want to do is I want to add a new property. Add property. I'm going to say weak, non-atomic, and retain. And that's going to be app data. So I don't have app data. I have to import it. App data. App data, and I'm going to call it shared instance. So very similar to what we have done before. This is essentially making sure that we can get access to our singleton. So let's save this. I'm going to go to listViewController.m, and I'm going to go to my view.did_load. I'm going to say shared instance is app data shared manager. So that part is taken care of. So now we have access to our basically our singleton. Then in the number of rows in sections, I'm going to say return shared instance dot current list dot count. So as many objects that are there, as many lists that are in our current LSD, return them as the number of cells that we have. And then of course in the cell text label, I'm going to say it's going to be shared instance dot current LSD, and the one that I'm looking for is index path dot row. And then from there, because I know it's a list, I can get list name. So that's one. Then I'm going to have to build a little bit of a text to put for my detailed text, and that's going to be very easy. I'm going to say NSString. Let's call it subtext. That becomes NSString, a string with format, and the format I want is a number. That's going to be a number, items for, and a name. And let's see how that works. That's going to be my shared instance dot current lists, and from the current list I'm gonna get index path dot row, and maybe I could bring this one line lower, exactly, dot list items dot count. And then the next one is going to be exactly the same thing, but not the count. It's essentially going to be owner list, somehow my list owner dot name. So let's see what we did. We said that we have our subtext made of the number of the items, let's say 5 space items for the name of the list owner. So hopefully what it's going to do for me is going to say 2 items for someone which I still don't know who that is. It's giving me a little warning. Let me see what that is. I think it's the formatting, and it's expecting it to be LU. Yes. So long unsigned, and again it's giving me another one. It's not used. Obviously it's not used because we're gonna put the subtext in here. So let's quickly look at it one more time. So my text label, actual text, is gonna be wherever we're in the current list based on the index path.row, the name of that list. And my other subtext, the subtitle of that text, is going to be a little bit of a format of the string that says something quite particular. Let me just reorder that as well, so it's a bit easier to see, and bring that line down as well. Excellent. I'm going to keep this like this for a second. You could either do this with me, or you can of course copy the text that I have supplied. Now we still can't test this simply because of two things. One is the current list doesn't have any items in it, simply because no one has yet called the prepare first lists. That's the first thing. So let's go ahead and save that and call it in our lists view controller. So I'm going to go to my .h, say import prepare first lists. I'm going to go to list view controller.m. In here, after my singleton, I'm going to say prepare first list, prepare. So this essentially puts a lot of objects, everything that we did in the last lesson, into our app data current LST, which is the one that we use here. The problem is our prepare first list depends on a guy called current user, which we still don't have. And we're not going to have it like this, but for now, as a temporary test, I'm actually going to make it manually. So in view.did_load of list view controller, I'm going to make it temporary user. And that is by saying shared instance.current user is, let's say, user class alloc init with, let's say the name is my name, email is default email, and UID is default UID. All right, so real quick. So now our shared instance current user exists, and because of that, we can do the prepare first list. And once that is done, hopefully we can get to see our items in our table view and see the exact name for them. If all goes well, this should work now. Let's try. Once my simulator loads, excellent. So I've got sample list, 2 items for Amir, office list, 2 items for Amir. Perfect. This is everything I could hope for. So I hope it makes sense up until this point. Have a read through the code. If you want to have a look at it, I'm going to zoom into it, or just download the code that I have, and I'll see you guys in the next lesson.